Joining us for Quest's self-directed IRA Saturday. We have a really great presentation for you today. We have one of our favorite speakers that works with us a lot and that we know very well and always is a fountain of information with the topics that he shares. That would be Jim Ingersoll himself, real estate entrepreneur and author. But before we get to Jim, I am going to just dive into our brief presentation that we like to give with regard to self-directed IRAs to give you just a bit of an overview as to what they are and how they can help you with your real estate and financial investment purposes. Now, I'll just start by talking a little bit about who we are here at Quest Trust Company. We are the largest self-directed IRA custodian in the state of Texas and one of the largest in the country. We have over 20,000 active investors that are a part of the Quest family here. We have in excess of $2 billion under asset administration as well. Here at Quest, we have over 100 employees, many of whom have additional certifications, that being the Certified IRA Specialist designation, which is something that is awarded by the American Banking Association. And it shows a level of education and training that you have taken above and beyond what you might find at just any other financial institution specific to the area of IRAs. Last thing I always like to mention too is that right now, our clients are sitting on anywhere between $300, $400 million in cash. That means we have clients that are looking for deals. They are waiting to find things to invest in. That could be real estate itself. That could be syndication deals. That could be private lending, any of the areas that Quest hits. We've got people who are ready to look at deals. So please look at our networking opportunities that we have that are coming up, and just be aware this is also a great way to find funding for those deals you have. And just by way of a reminder, just to kind of lay it out, the purposes of our presentation today are purely for educational purposes only. At Quest, we do not provide tax, legal, or investment advice. And you always want to be doing your own due diligence before you enter into any type of transaction yourself. You may also want to consult with your tax, legal, or investment advisor before entering into any investments as well. All right, so self-directed IRAs, what are they? Well, a self-directed IRA is really no different than an IRA you're going to find anywhere else from any other kind of financial institution. We often say an IRA is an IRA is an IRA. The distinction, though, and why there is a distinction in terms of a self-directed IRA is that it is an account that lets you truly pick the asset that you want to invest in. You contrast that by, say, going to a place like Vanguard. You open up an IRA there, you buy Vanguard products. You're turning your money over to a fund manager. They make the selections in terms of what they invest in for your benefit. And now that's not always a bad way to go, but you don't have true control over the investment. You don't even know necessarily what the investments are. So with the self-directed IRA, you regain that control. Now, diversification, we know, regardless of where we invest, every IRA can achieve diversification. But what we're talking about here is getting into an asset category beyond just what the market has, traditional assets, that being stocks, bonds, mutual funds, etc. The tax savings is also something you're always going to get with an IRA. Many of the IRA accounts that we have are all tax deferred. Some of them have the ability to derive tax-free income, and some of them tax-free distributions for very specific purposes like education and healthcare. The other thing is, with a self-directed IRA, you truly get to invest in the things that you know the best. You're the one picking the investment. You're the one who's doing the due diligence. So chances are you're going to be much less surprised by the outcome because of the attention that you have given into researching the asset that you're utilizing. And, I'll throw one more thing in there that I think a self-directed IRA also allows. It's a little bit of what I like to think of as social investing. Think about what happens when you buy, that eyesore of a house in the neighborhood. It's sat there, it's really kind of, made the neighborhood look a little less attractive. And now you've made that investment and you're going to buy it. And of course, what you're going to do is improve it. You're going to improve your community in doing so. But what else do you do? And think about it. You're hiring local contractors to do the renovations and the improvements. So you're stimulating the economy that way. You're also buying materials, locally sourcing them in all likelihood, further stimulating the economy. So there are a lot of byproducts when you go into real estate and start doing renovations and things of that nature that has a ripple effect on the greater community in which you are investing. And that is something truly you can achieve through a self-directed IRA. Now, in terms of the IRAs themselves, we put them in three separate categories. The personal IRAs, which would be the traditional and the Roth. The traditional is also kind of known as the rollover in many cases because it uses pre-tax dollars. The Roth, of course, we know we can put money in after tax. And if there are qualified distributions down the road, we can get all of that money out of there tax-free. The employer plans would be the SEP, the Simple, and the Solo 401k. These are great options for people who have small businesses or are self-employed, and they want to be able to put more money into their IRA than they could, say, through a traditional or a Roth on its own. And finally, the specialty plans, which I referred to, those would be the health savings account and the Coverdale education savings accounts. These are two specific types of accounts where, again, money goes in tax deferred, grows, and comes out tax-free for those specific purposes: health expenses, education expenses. And if you ever go and look at the code that governs what those expenses are, you're going to see it's pretty broad. The ESA, the education savings account, that can be used for children as young as in kindergarten. It's not just college. And it can be tuition, of course, things like that. But it could be things like school uniforms. It could be Wi-Fi these days with the homeschooling that's been going on. The health savings account, again, things you would expect: an eye exam, a doctor's appointment. But it could also be things like translation to Braille if somebody were blind, or a seeing eye dog, or all kinds of intricate little things that would be covered under that and allow you to take money out tax-free. All right, just to give you a rundown on some of our upcoming events. We are going live with events again here in Texas, and we're very excited about that. We've been doing this for a couple of months now. So we are launching what we call our self-directed IRA socials. They are every first, second, and third Tuesdays of the month. First Tuesday, Houston; second Tuesday, Austin; third Tuesday is Dallas. So we've got the Dallas event coming up just this week. So if you're in the area, please, I hope you'll come by. We have a great presentation from Brad Sumruck that we're going to have there. And I know for a fact I'm going to be there myself. I know for a fact it's pretty well booked, but there's still plenty of room if you want to join. Also, we are continuing with our ongoing classes and webinars. So like I said, we have the self-directed IRA classes that we do every week, every Tuesday. Then the Saturday classes such as this. Our virtual happy hour for networking is still up and running. That was very popular back during the COVID era, and people have asked us to maintain it. So it's every fourth Wednesday of the month at the tail end. And it's still on Wednesdays as it was before. But this gives you a nice ability to interact with our nationwide clientele. Whether you're a client looking for a deal or somebody pitching a deal, it's open to all. And of course, any and all of our events that we telecast and have live are archived on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page. So if you ever miss anything, just go to those resources and you can find exactly what you were looking for. All right, Quest Expo is coming back. We have Quest Expo. It's going to be on September 23rd through 25th in Houston. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's the Westin at the Gallery in Houston. There are going to be speakers from around the country, a lot of great networking opportunities. And one of the things I think I like about Quest Expo the most is the vendor participation that you're going to get. You're going to see a broad scale of different types of vendors. And why I think that is so critical is that these are the people who really will constitute your team. These are going to be the people who do the support services that you will need to maintain your properties or your investments inside of your self-directed IRA, the people who can help you the most. So that is definitely one of, I think, the most critical takeaways, in addition to the many speakers we're going to have over the course of that weekend. All right, so finally, if you would like to get in touch with myself or any other IRA specialist, please use that QR code. You can scan it and it'll take you to a link for our team through Calendly. You can set up a time that's convenient for you and we will call you then. You can always just go to our website as well. Once you go to the website, you can chat with us. You can request information or request a call that way as well. We always are here at the phones too. As many of you know, somebody always answers the phone when you call Quest during business hours. So you're not put into a prompt system of dial this or dial that. Somebody will answer the phone and somebody will route your call appropriately. And of course, you can always just shoot us an email at iraspecialists@questtrust.com. All right. So now what I'm going to do is prepare to turn it over to Jim. As I said, Jim is one of our favorites. We work with him a great deal. Jim has been a successful real estate entrepreneur, author, and speaker over the course of his careers. He's pretty much done it all. He's done many investment properties over the years. It's wholesaling, it's been flipping, it's been long-term. I think one of the things that Jim, and he'll probably tell you this himself, that he really enjoys the most is actually getting out there and teaching investors how to do all these things in the areas of real estate. He's helped people that are new, just getting into real estate for the first time, and he's helped pretty seasoned investors as well, help them really up their game and hone new techniques to be even more successful. He, again, is a favorite speaker of ours. He does our events. He does his own events. He's published a couple of books, which you can still find on Amazon. And Jim is also featured in other forms of media, being interviewed and featured in multiple magazines over the years. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim. Jim, I hope I didn't embarrass you too much with all that.
You did. You do. I don't like talking about myself. Steve, thank you very much.
No problem.
Everyone who knows me well knows that is just the truth. And if you're with me, say hello in the chat box. I'd love to say hello to you guys. Happy Easter. In about 3 hours, I'm going to be in church for Easter. So I hope you guys really enjoy your weekend with your families and all the special things to celebrate the weekend that changed everything for eternity. And by the way, right around the corner is Monday. We go from beautiful Easter right into the tax deadline. Who scheduled this calendar, right? And thanks for saying hello, Rob, and everyone else in the chat box. Type in your questions and comments and things as you go. Lisa, it is awesome to see you. So we go like right from Easter, right into the tax deadline. And by the way, what an amazing offer that Steve just gave you guys. It's an honor to be with the Quest family again, and super excited to go with that. Let me share my screen here. Oh, I am sharing it. Hang on. All right, there we go. It's good to be with you guys. If you need my email, it's jim@elitedealmakers.com. And then I've got a very active Facebook group that I just shared this webinar to also, called the Real Estate Investor Network. It's a very large Facebook group. We have about 150,000 people in it. So there's a lot of deal makers in there, and we have amazing discussions every week. Just the depth of discussion in this Facebook group is something that I learn from constantly. I do have one free thing for you today. Steve, I'm so glad you mentioned due diligence. It is incredibly critical. I'm not really talking about it today, but I do have a checklist. And every time I work with Quest, I offer this checklist out. It basically covers property, people, and paperwork, and makes you think about some things maybe you didn't think about. Maybe you've got some blind spots you're not even aware of. I hope that this very easy to read and digest document really helps you a lot. Go to elitedealmakers.com/do. I did this primarily for all of you, so I hope you guys take advantage of that. Property, people, and paperwork are also critical. So there's basically 4 things I'm going to talk about today. What is financial independence? I'm going to talk a little bit about how much do you really need, and then 3 stages of investing. And then I'm also going to mix in like passive investing and active investing a little bit as well. And then I'm going to really zero in on hard assets, because I really think, given the amount of inflation that we've got right now, the way that I'm hedging inflation personally is with rent. All of our rents are going up. I'm sure you've read all the reports. You probably saw the 60-minute special. You've seen that Blackstone and everyone else is buying single-family homes. It is an amazing hedge on inflation right now. Get those loans locked in if you're doing bank financing, is my one takeaway on that one. So what is financial independence? I think it's really freedom, but there's 2 elements of this freedom. One is the financial element of freedom, and the other is time. And they kind of go hand in hand, don't they? If you know when to stop, when you've got enough financial freedom to create the time freedom, so you know that it's okay to like slow down a little bit, because you could just keep on going. But what is it to you? Type into the chat box. Tell me, guys, what is financial freedom to you? Is it just being able to do what you want whenever you want to do it? Is it about leaving the rat race called your job? I've been thinking back to my corporate America days a lot lately, because I left in like 2006 when I last worked full time. And I, like a lot of you, I was told it's good to get a good education. I got a degree from RIT in Rochester, New York in electrical engineering, and then went on to get my master's in engineering management. I don't even know why I didn't do an MBA. That was all fine. And then I was told, after you've got your degree, work really hard, climb the corporate ladder, all that good stuff. And when I turned close to 40 and I was running 2 factories, and they told me to close those 2 factories down after just like scaling them up, I knew it was time for me to like get out. And that was the point where I either had to go out on my own or be willing to relocate to another city in the United States to find the job that I didn't even want. So I left corporate America and went into real estate investing full time. My kids at that point were in about middle school age, and I was kind of nervous, kind of scared, because I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I had to replace my income, get my own medical and all that stuff. And from there, it's been an amazing journey, and done all kinds of different deals, as Steve mentioned, over those 10 or 15 years. David Phelps just texted me a couple of days ago an image of something where I was working on short sales in 2009. It was a good reminder of what that time period looked like. But over time, you've got the option of doing all different kinds of things to create the financial freedom that you need. I can tell you for sure that when I was in corporate America, and I thought I could just get a good education, work really hard, and save my way to retirement, I couldn't have been further from the truth. But isn't that what we're all taught? Like when I was going to engineering school and I was working corporate America, I was really being trained to be an amazing employee. And I really think I was a great employee. But eventually I figured out that I didn't want to be an employee for anybody. And so you start working on your own independence. And part of my first step towards financial independence was saying, I no longer want this career path. Like, I'm sick of climbing this corporate ladder, just like knock it over, I'm done, I'm out. So if you're in that rat race, or if you don't like your boss, or you're not happy with your job, start asking yourself, why are you doing it? There are better ways to do it. And I'm going to go through some of those today on how I've done it. And then ultimately, don't we all want time freedom? as I start to get older, I've been reading some books by Bob Goff, Goff. He's an amazing author, and his newest book is called Undistracted. And in there, he talks about the fact that he's created like a clock. It's a backwards counting clock from the average life expectancy, which was 76 last year in the United States, by the way, until it's at the age he's at. And it makes him double and triple check what he's working on, who he's spending time with, what relationships are really important to him, so he can be undistracted and really totally focus on that. If you've got a backwards counting clock and you know you've got X number of days potentially left, you're going to be undistracted and you're going to really live the life that you want. And that's what I want for all of you. The thing is, we've all got different starting points. We all have different family needs, right? I remember what it was like when my daughters, Melissa and Crystal, were young, and when I left corporate America and they were in middle school. It's a lot different than it is today when they're both married and independent at this point, right? Maybe you've got student loan debt. Maybe your kids are getting ready to go to college and you want to provide them a pathway to not have debt when they get out. Maybe you're getting closer to retirement. Here's the thing. Also, the thing that really crushes all of this is debt. And I know a lot of real estate investors aren't huge Dave Ramsey fans. I get that. He's really helped way more people than I'll ever help, but he's working towards a different avatar of people also than the people that are on the webinar right now. So I don't want to take anything away from Dave Ramsey. I think he's great. I have some differences, obviously, because I love real estate debt. But if you've got personal credit card debt, make it a very high priority to get rid of it. If you have business debt that's revolving, get rid of it. If you have lines of credit, be really careful right now. And then, because this is Quest, I do think that you should always position yourself to contribute to your self-directed IRAs and get yourself in position to make those accounts grow as fast as you can. That's why when I hear Steve mention they have $350 million of unallocated investments, I just wonder what we can do to overcome the fear and the missing dots that are not connected on the people that own those accounts, because there are lots of great deals. I've been doing deals right along. I'm still doing deals today, and they're out there, and the people are out there as well. That's why I wanted to offer that due diligence kit. My friend David Phelps always talks about your freedom number. What is your freedom number? This is the number that, like, if you look back over the last few months of your own bank statements, I encourage you to do this. Go to your bank statements and have the courage to look through them online and just figure out like your opening and closing balances, and really take a look at where your money is going, your personal money. How much money does it really take for you to live? And then if you can develop a plan to create enough reasonably passive income to hit that freedom number, you will have financial independence. In my opinion, that's how you're going to get there. And I'm going to go through how to do that by holding hard assets today. And I just want to start by talking about 3 stages of investing: the beginner, the wealth building, and the freedom a little bit as well, because all of us are in one of these 3. I've been in all 3. So I know what it's like and how long I spent in each of these categories. If I had to redo it today, I could do this way faster than I did before. Maybe you're sort of a beginner. This is where maybe you're a realtor, maybe you're working a job, you're living in corporate America, whatever it is. Maybe you're a wholesaler. Maybe you're doing flips because they've been really good the last few years. Maybe you're doing some wholesale deals. You're good at buying the right properties. Maybe if you're doing this in real estate, you know your numbers. And if you are, the issue with this category right here, commission, wholesale, and flipping houses, is that all of it is transactional income, meaning it's one and done. You do one deal, you get paid one time, and that's it. You're done. You're over, okay? And that's the problem. So why would you want to focus all of your energy, all of your resources on something that's going to pay you one time? Real estate commission, wholesaling, flipping, one and done. Maybe you're starting to move out of that category from being flips and wholesale deals and real estate commission and stuff like that into beginning to work on wealth building. This is where you start to create a portfolio of rentals that may be conservatively leveraged. Again, you're going to outpace inflation because are your rents in your area up or down? You guys know what the median price and the median rents are doing in your market? Go to rentometer.com and pull them up, check them out. Go to Zillow, you can check them there as well. Your rents, I mean, they're going up fast, and I guarantee they're higher than what you think they are. They're going to outpace inflation by quite a bit. You know, they say inflation's like 8.5%. What do you guys think it really is? Double that? Again, if you can lock in rates, especially if you did it yesterday, of course, just over the last 3 weeks, the rates are really jumping. We've been talking about this a lot in my inner circle group the last couple of weeks. So you got to do that. You got to always keep your ego in check, give and practice gratitude if you're starting to go into this category of wealth building. Learn about asset protection and invest in your IRA. Don't be like one of the account holders with $350 million sitting at Quest. Get that money active, get it working. That money should be making you money even while you're sleeping or sitting on a beach in Florida, okay? All the time. Maybe you're sort of coming into what we call an ender status. This goes back to the Jack Miller days. Peter Fortunato, they talk about becoming an ender. If you're heading into this category, then you've probably got some free and clear assets. You might have some that are leveraged. You might have some notes. Maybe you do some private money lending, very tax focused. My encouragement here is find a way to hedge inflation again, limit that liability with good asset protection, and keep on investing. Enjoy your freedom, build your legacy. One thing that's really important to me as I move forward here is to be in position to give generously. I really look at anything that I have in life as really just all being God's anyways. Obviously, they're not going to fill my casket full of money when I leave. So it's really about building a legacy and being in a position to help people by living generously. So where are you now? Are you in the beginner, the wealth building, or in the freedom? And take this as an action item. You're going to discover what your freedom number is. That is the number that allows you to know how much passive income you need so that nothing else matters. If your kids need some braces or something bad happens, you got some emergency funds and so on. It's very, very important, okay? Now, let's talk about being active. Active is, like I said, transactional. You can make a lot of money being a realtor. You can make a lot of money building houses, developing, flipping houses, wholesaling. We're doing some new builds in Florida right now. They're going to do really well. First one goes for sale next week. But again, that's just like one and done. Flipping, I've flipped so many houses. I've only flipped one house in the last year after flipping hundreds and hundreds of them. I no longer need it. Wholesaling, did a lot of wholesaling early on. The problem with all of these is you can create a lot of income, but you're going to pay a lot of tax, and you're going to be in a position where it's only transactional. What if there was a better way? What if you could become a little bit more passive? Maybe you could do some equity participation. Maybe you could be a private money lender. Maybe you could create or even buy a note. Or what I'm going to focus on today, and there's nothing wrong with those. I've done all of those. I've done equity participation. I've got active deals that are equity participation. I've done plenty of private money lending. I like being the lender. I like being the borrower as well. And I've created notes. I've never bought a note because I've only created my own. Nothing wrong with any of those. But today I'm going to come down and I'm going to really focus this in on building hard assets, okay? So you can have that rental income growth because rents are up, right? You get, if you do conservative leverage with a bank, you're going to get amortization. That's 24/7 wealth building. You're going to have a lot of real estate debt. I know that's anti-Dave Ramsey, but good debt that other people pay for, I'm all in. I like that, okay? You're also going to love your depreciation. Like I said, a couple days and we're right up against the tax deadline, and tax savings. but you've really got to get locked in on low rates now. Like I said, rates have gone up a lot in the last 3 weeks. That's because they're trying to hedge inflation, and they're going to keep going up. So you can complain about rates already having jumped up to X amount, or you can say, what are they going to be in 6 months? Okay, let's just take the retail interest rates for a minute. They've been at like 3% for a long time. 2.5 to 3.5% for a very long time. All of a sudden, they're up near 5%, right? Just over the last 30 days. I think I would venture to guess that by probably the 1st of June, they may be up around 6%. And maybe by the fall, they might be 7%. And that's retail. The commercial rates that investors pay are always like a point higher. So we could complain about all of that. We have tremendous amounts of inflation. This is how they fight it. We're going to end up in a recession. You better be ready for that, by the way. Make sure that you've got some cash reserves built in. Or you can say, I'm going to take action right now. I'm going to get this rolling. So choose intentionally. There's lots of different ways you can create assets. And you might be thinking, no, I don't want to be a landlord. Personally, I love being a landlord. I think it's my favorite job I've ever had. I think it's awesome, except for maybe teaching people how to do real estate, which I absolutely love. I do love being a landlord. That is the traditional long-term rental model, okay? But you've got to do this right, because when Cheryl and I were in our mid-20s, we started this, and we bought a duplex in Jamestown, New York. That was a horrible experience, okay? That duplex was like $20,000. It looked so good on paper, but we were undercapitalized, didn't have a clue how to manage tenants, find tenants, do a lease, screen tenants, none of that. So if you're not good at being a landlord, then hire a good property manager, okay? Don't let that be a fear point that you can't get over the hurdle on, okay? There's ways around it. Get yourself the skills that you need. Come to Quest Expo, and you're going to learn so much in Houston in September. One of the ones I absolutely love now is Airbnb and short-term rentals. And there's a couple of categories even within short-term rentals, because, of course, there's Airbnb, there's Vrbo, there's Booking.com, all these different platforms. But even within those platforms, you could do a destination property. You could do a non-destination property. So I could go into the positives and negatives of either one of those. How many of you guys on right now have done an Airbnb, Vrbo, short-term rental, and how has it been? Has it been good for you? They've been really good for us. And then another subcategory is corporate housing. I really love this one. Which is like travel nurse. Okay, so you just take one of your duplexes, furnish one of your apartments, and just rent it to travel nurses on typically 90 to 180 day type rental leases. Okay, and they pay a lot. So for instance, we've got a 480 square foot 1-bedroom that we rent for $1,645 a month. If I was going to rent that traditional, it might be half of that. So I can 2x my rental income. Now, keep in mind, with all these, you have different amounts of rental income coming in. So let's just go through this real quick. Let's say you've got a 2-bedroom apartment, a 2-bedroom that you can rent for $1,000 traditional. That may rent for $1,500 to a travel nurse, or it might rent for $3,000 or $4,000 a month on Airbnb. Okay. And then, by the way, I haven't even talked about other little niches, like say Section 8. And the economy has been so good for so long, you haven't had the need necessarily to intentionally focus on that particular property, but you could. And if things get bad and go really bad, you may want to look at working with folks that the government pays their rent again. Okay. All right. So I love it all. I like single families. Up above that, the blue one is a duplex we've got. I am truly a duplexaholic. They're very easy deals to structure. They're not hard. It's incredibly easy just to buy a duplex and have 2 rental incomes. The bottom left is a quad, and I'll go through that one. Or maybe you just love good old-fashioned apartments. Maybe you like self-storage. I would love to do some self-storage deals. I like it all. Okay, maybe you like to do mobile homes on land. That's okay too. Maybe you like to do a cabin in Gatlinburg. they've gotten crazy expensive. So you're probably not going to do that. But you see my point. So there's all different kinds of asset classes. I want to tell you the story about this one and show you how the numbers worked out. I put this property under contract the day after I got out of quarantine, just over a year ago with COVID. I had COVID, and like all of you guys, it was fine, other than the fact I still can't really smell. But anyways, the day I got out of quarantine, I was really excited because like the end of my 10 days, I'm just like a caged animal and I have to get out of my house. So I get this deal. It's this property on Edgewood in Richmond. I'm like, I'm going to go take a look at it. It's my first day out. I haven't bought a house in 10 days. I got to go. So I get there and it's this red wreck of a house that I had the opportunity to buy. And we did the rehab and it came out like this blue one here. Like I said, duplexes sort of do in my sleep. They're very easy. Okay, so you've got to be able to solve problems. This, as a 3-bedroom, was a large. There's 2 apartments, one upstairs, one downstairs. Both of them are 3 bedrooms. I don't have lots and lots of apartments that are 3 bedrooms, so it was a nice way to diversify a little. It was vacant. It needed a ton of work, but it was in a really nice location. And when I checked the rental income, it looked like I could get around $1,500 a month. This was an off-market deal from a wholesaler. And so we went ahead and rehabbed it. We took it from red to the blue. Do you guys like the blue? Do you like the orange doors? My wife Cheryl picks amazing colors, I think. Came out really good. I don't love stucco, but I think it all was in pretty good shape. And so we painted it. This property appraised for $435 when we were done. It did rent for $1,495 a month or $1,500 a month each. We have really great tenants who love living here and take really good care of the place. So you don't have to be a slumlord, okay? You don't have to specialize in what some landlords call crap flow. You don't have to go there, okay? You can create nice property if you want. My loan with the bank on this is around $2,000 a month total. That's principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, okay? Leaving me a gross cash flow of close to $1,000 a month. My total all in on this is $300. So I don't remember if I paid like $225 or whatever it was. My question to you is, if you could create $1,000 a month just investing in duplexes, how many would you need to become financially independent? See, that's why it's important to know that freedom number. If your freedom number is you've got to have $10,000 a month to be able to kiss your job goodbye and do what you want when you want to do it, then you've got to put together a plan to create 10 like this one, okay? It's not that hard. Now, you could also do this deal right in your self-directed IRA. It'd be a nice investment. Again, you got $3,000 a month coming in, so that's $36,000 a year gross. All you got to do is pay for your taxes and interest against the $300,000 investment. I hope you're thinking that your cash-on-cash return is pretty strong. It looks pretty good. So how many of these would it take for you to create financial independence? All right. Always know your numbers so that you can do it. What about Airbnb? I told you guys I love Airbnb. I think when I left corporate America in 2006, it was before Facebook, before YouTube, before Audible, all the things that really help us leverage learning and things now. And the only way that I could kind of figure out how to replace my income, which was a good corporate income, was through wholesaling. Okay. And I figured if I could wholesale enough houses, I could replace my income. And that's how I did it. I think if I were doing it today in 2022, I would start to invest in Airbnbs. Okay. That's how I would do it. And you could do destination, you could do non-destination. I have some of each. Okay. I really love the travel nurse as well. I talked about earlier. This is one we have in Norfolk, Virginia. In the bottom right, you'll see the main property. That property may look like a single family home, but when you go in that front blue door, there's an apartment on the left, it's upstairs, downstairs, and an apartment on the right, upstairs, downstairs. But what you don't see in that picture is there's a garage and then a cottage in the back as well. So there's actually 3 properties in there. And when I bought this, I thought I was going to do traditional rental. Then I started to look into travel nurse rental, and I saw there is a ton of demand in Norfolk, Virginia for travel nurse, tons. Very high demand. So I thought, well, I can increase my rent if I do travel nurse. Then I realized that it's a little better location than I may have realized because it's across the street from Ocean View Beach, literally across the street. And it's up on a hill too, so I didn't need flood insurance, which was wonderful. So this one, again, it's a triplex plus a garage. It appraised at $550. I'm certain I could sell it for more than that now, because what happens to prices? They keep going up, right? We rent this on an average of year round for around $8,000 a month. 3 apartments, okay? And in the summer, it's more, and in the winter, it's a little less. But I think it's going to average close to $8,000 a month. My principal, interest, taxes, and insurance on this are around $3,500 a month, leaving us with about $4,500 a month in just pure cash flow. You see why I like Airbnb short-term rentals so well? Because the cash flow is so strong. And if you're trying to create financial independence, when you could tell your boss goodbye and you could make sure that you've got everything covered, like if you want to take your wife to Paris, I was thinking of that because I got an email from Quincy this morning, Quincy Long, and he told me he's in France. So that's probably why I'm thinking of Paris. But maybe you want to take your family on a really nice vacation to the Caribbean or to Paris or wherever it is. Maybe you're just trying to make sure that you've got everything covered for your kids' college or make sure you're ready for retirement. By the way, you could do this deal in your IRA. If you've got, I think I've got, say, 425 in it, whatever it is. If you got that cash available, you can do that in your IRA. Here's another way you can do it in your IRA, even if you don't have the money yourself. You could joint venture. So what if your Roth bought it and you joint ventured with somebody else and their Roth put up the money? So you got to think creatively. You got to think outside the box a little bit. And then you take that cash flow and you share it. So if you could create $4,500 a month as a traditional rental using Airbnb as a platform, how many times would you need to buy a property just like this one to be free? Okay. We are in the middle of pollen season here in Virginia. I can feel it in my throat. Just got back from Florida late last night. All right, so this is Florida. About a year ago, a little more than a year ago now, maybe 14, 15 months ago, I was posting on Instagram about duplexes and stuff that I was renting actually. And somebody saw one and they contacted me. It was somebody I knew, it was a friend of mine, and asked if I had been ever considered buying something in Florida. I actually was already looking in Florida because of the population trends and things like that. I was looking up and down the I-4 corridor. I really liked it between Orlando and Tampa. And I got this call from this friend of mine. I had no idea that he had it. The owner bought a house here in Richmond and had to sell these apartments in Florida off market with tons and tons of challenges and issues because of some medical issues. And so he was very much unwilling to take less than $1 million for 20 apartments. And his rent roll wasn't good. Rent roll was around $685 a month with some vacancy, extremely poorly managed and way below market rents. Okay. And when we look at opportunity, there's 2 ways that I look at value add. Number 1 is management value add, and the number 2 is physical value add. This property had both. Like the places were, kind of not the nicest, and it was extremely horribly managed. Okay, and so I started negotiating with him. I met him and his wife at Panera's. For over an hour. I could talk about this deal for 2 hours, but I won't. And he would not budge on his $1 million. So I started talking to him about doing seller financing. And he was open to doing seller financing for a year. So we agreed on the down payment. We closed, and I replaced his property manager who lived in one of these units next door. and got my own property manager, leveraging my own network. By the way, your network is your what? Your net worth, right? So I built a team in Florida, and sort of the rest becomes history. Let me go through how these numbers work. So we started just doing some basic value add, both management and physical. My favorite is management, when I can just buy property and raise rent. We're doing that in a few weeks in Florida when we buy 5 more apartments. That's the easiest, but sometimes you got to do both. And sometimes you got to do the hard stuff, which is the physical stuff, right? So you improve the space, you improve the management. I told you the rents were like $685 a month. When I first bought it, I didn't realize that the market would support $1,100 a month. So they were almost 50% of market. Okay. So we ended up getting a valuation on this of very close to $2 million when we were done, with rental income of around $18,000 a month, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance about $7,000, and cash flow of $11,000. I only share this with you because I want you to think, like, what does it take to create independence for you? Okay, so how many of these would it take for you to get there? Can you do a duplex? Can you do an Airbnb? Can you do some apartments? What is your freedom number, and how are you going to get there? I want you to really tune in on this today. And by the way, if you can do this in a tax-free environment like a self-directed IRA, all the better. Because if the IRS doesn't take their portion from you, it's even easier. But I know some of you are going to do some in an account and some outside. So I just want to share with you how Burr works. Burr is not cold. Like, I grew up near Buffalo, 100 inches of snow a year. That was true Burr. This is the kind of Burr that's going to warm your spirit, warm your soul, and warm your life. Because what you're going to do is just buy hard assets, knowing your numbers, with either a self-directed IRA or with private money. And then so the B is buy. The first R is rehab. I always say rehab all the way. Create an amazing place that you can attract the right tenants. You got to know who your ideal resident is and really cater to that. All the way through. Always invest with the end in mind. What is your goal, and how are you going to get there? And then if you didn't do cash like in a self-directed IRA, be positioned to do your refi and just create positioning for like amortization and things long term. Now, I know things are changing fast, like rates are going up, all of that. But if you invest with the long term in mind, and you invest with the right fundamentals, that you're going to create both equity and cash flow right away, you can do this. This is not a hard process. I've done this many times. And I'm very confident anybody on today's webinar with Quest could do the same thing. You can either just buy a rental or some hard assets with your own money sitting at Quest right now and do this. You could rehab it and rent it and just keep it. Someday, maybe you want to sell it. If you do it in a self-directed IRA, and there's no loan, no debt financing, there's no taxes. Imagine doing some of these in a Roth or your health savings account or your educational savings account, and the benefit that you're going to receive is really strong. The last thing I want to watching my time here, talk about with regards to buying rentals is your investment criteria. I think it's really important. When I first started buying rentals, I sort of bought anywhere that I could find without really having laser vision of what I wanted. And I think that was a mistake. It's one thing I could redo. If I had to start over, it's one of the things I would change. Okay. So I want you to think about this and maybe take a picture of this with your phone if you want. But let's talk through these points here real quick. There's financing. If you're going to pay cash from your self-directed IRA, even easier, okay? If you've got some funds in there and you find a good deal, it's got equity built in, you can create cash flow, awesome. Just let your IRA buy it and hold that as a rental property. If you're outside your IRA, then you've got to always invest with the end in mind. The end in mind for me is partly, what does a bank require for my permanent financing? Get on the phone and start interviewing some banks and you're going to have to understand a few things about financing. Okay. I think long before you start rehabbing houses like they do on HGTV, and you start getting all excited about all this design and taking out walls and light fixtures and paint, dumpsters, demo, I think it's more important that you get really good with a financial calculator. Do that first. Know what that bank is going to require for you. Now, there's more options on financing than there used to be. There's community banks, there's regional banks. Those are my favorite. You could also do private money on the front end, which is my favorite as well. I love working with private money lenders, and I'm also a lender myself sometimes. But you've got to know, like, there's two stages to your financing. One, when you buy it, typically, unless you're going to use your own cash or a line of credit, you're going to probably finance with either a hard money lender or a private money lender. Okay, so then you've got it. Then you got to do the rehab, then you got to rent it, and then you're going to refi it. Okay, know what that financing looks like both on the front and the back end. I always want you to buy something. When I say buy with the fundamentals in place, what I'm talking about is equity. Okay, buy with equity day one, or at least have a plan to get it. Like if you're going to pay $120 and it needs $30,000 of work, you're going to be all in at $150. Is the property then worth $200,000? What is that number? So you got to know what it's worth sort of as is, the value, and how much it's going to cost for you to rehab it. And then what is it worth when you're done? Okay. And that is true, really. And you got to start to understand values, right? You got to know your market. You got to do some research. Okay. Get in the right rooms with the right people so you can start connecting these dots and building your own team so that you know the values in your market. You know what the median is. You know how much the values are going up. You know what the rents are. And then that goes right into cash flow. The cash flow is the glue that holds all of this together and creates your cash on cash return. It's really important. And by the way, if you can create enough equity, say at least 25%, you can buy it with a private money loan, add the value, and then refi it later, potentially with very little money out of your own pocket. And that's how it's a great way for you to start building your rental portfolio. So cash flow is really important. You've got to know what it's going to rent for. So you got to know how to pull your rental comp. This is true no matter which of those three I just went through. So do you know how to pull your rental comps for a traditional rental? I mentioned rentometer.com is a good one earlier. It's a starting point at least. Mashvisor is a great one too. I like Mashvisor because you can do traditional or Airbnb right on mashvisor.com. AirDNA is one of my favorite for short-term rentals. So you've got to be able to leverage technology to make this easier. There's so much data available to you today that it's never been easier. And you've really got to know your price point. And you got to know some basic ratios like the 1% rule, the 2% rule, the 50% rule, different things like that. So you got to get yourself some education. I didn't do any of this when I was starting, and I wish I had. Then zero in on your favorite asset type. Do you like single family homes? Do you like duplexes, quads? Do you like triplexes? Do you like apartments, self-storage, mobile home parks? What is it? There's all these different kinds of assets that are all financeable in different ways. And then really zero in on your location. This one really has a huge impact on what you do. If you can figure out where in your city, in your market, where stuff is gentrifying and where the most revitalization is, like if you drive through the certain sections of Houston or Dallas or LA, wherever you're at, and you start to see like all these dumpsters you're counting as you go down the street, that's a good sign that houses are getting fixed up. And if you can jump into that market or onto the fringe of that market, you're going to do really, really well. So all of that comes down to what I call your buy box. And your buy box is this. Take a picture of this with your phones or watch the replay. What is your plan for this property? What is your exit strategy? Okay, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to rehab it, and I'm going to rent it, right? What do you want to buy? A single family, a duplex, a quad, apartments, self-storage, mobile home on land, whatever it is. Airbnb. Where do you want to buy it? Okay, so you want to be in Houston or Dallas. Where in those areas? Those cities are huge. So do you want to be in a particular area, like in Richmond, maybe in Churchill or the North Side or wherever it is? And how much equity are you trying to create? I really recommend that you buy and try to create at least 25% equity so that you've got a good game plan to gain it right away. So that as soon as you're done adding value, that property is worth at least 25% more than you just paid. So if you bought it for 500,000, then I want you to have 25% more of that when you're done. And then you got to know how much cash is going to take to do it. And if you buy with enough equity, you create enough cash flow, you can use very little of your own money, but that's difficult to do. So you've really got to know your numbers. Okay. Here's my buy box. Okay. I did this for our inner circle group a couple of weeks ago because they kept asking me. I kept telling them, create your investment criteria, create a buy box. And they would be like, well, Jim, what's your buy box? So I created it. Here's one of them. I like to buy traditional rentals, 2 to 32 units, like duplexes to some apartments. I do it in Richmond, Virginia, Hampton Roads, Virginia, and I love the I-4 corridor. But if I had to pick one sweet spot in Florida, it would be Polk County. For me, it's been really, really well. It's just south of Orlando. I want to create at least 25% equity through value add physical or value add management. I want positive cash flow within 3 months time frame. So I don't want to do like massive rehabs that take 9 months, because over 9 months, too much stuff is changing between supply chain disruptions, inflation, and bank rates going up. I don't personally want to go like 9 months. So I want to have a plan to gain cash flow within 3 months. I'll take negative cash flow for a little bit, but not very long. That's just me. Typically, I'm below $150,000 a door. The lower, the better, of course. And I'm going to be typically between $200,000 and $4 million of assets. That's my buy box. So if any of you that are on the webinar have anything that hits these categories and you want to sell it, let me know. See how you do that? You just ask for people to help you. Tell people what you do and where you do it. So who wants more? Don't we all? So I'm going to do this in more depth and in more detail at Quest Expo. You guys should come see me there, September 23rd to 25th. It's, besides my own deal maker event, it's my favorite event. They're going to have close to 1,000 people there this year, I think, and I'm really excited to come again. September's coming up fast, and I really think you guys should commit to coming. So go to questexpo.com and register. Everything I went through is really important, but Steve mentioned due diligence. So I'm just going to say it again. Grab your due diligence checklist. You probably have blind spots you haven't thought of in a while. And it's really important. You need to know who you're working with, what the property looks like, and what the paperwork looks like. I highly recommend you go to elitedealmakers.com/due, D-U-E, and pick up your due diligence checklist. It's really, really important. I think I'm right on time. This is pretty amazing. Let's see, Steve. Okay, good. Hey, you made that happen. You stayed with me. You were like dialed in. That's good.
I sure did. I'm still here. Yeah, we're coming up on the top of the hour. We've had about 60 people kind of in and out on the call, but we are coming up right on the end. So I haven't seen a lot of questions. I've seen a lot of compliments coming through on the chat box, but I think maybe the answers are there. I also did put in a link to the website for Quest Expo, and I did also put in a coupon code. If you use my last name, Sabaji30, that will get you a discount on the tickets. So if you are still thinking about it, there's a good little motivation for you right there as well. Like I said, I mean, a lot of things that are in the box.
They look good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the shout outs. And
yeah, definitely. I think your question about what to do, or like what you're looking to do afterwards, certainly got a lot of interest. There are definitely some people who are thinking along those lines.
That is good. Freedom is so important. And
Yeah.
I know that like I wasted quite a few years in corporate America before I realized it. And I think the best way to get there is just by buying assets. Steve, you got $350 million of unused capital.
I know.
Put it to work, guys. Buy some assets.
We're trying to
I
help
know
those
you
people.
are, but there's a lot of account holders that need to take some action and like figure out what is the roadblock that prevents you from doing that, and remove that roadblock.
Yeah. It's interesting. That amount seems to fluctuate a lot that I've seen in the last several months, where it's gone up and down. It was down before. It seems like it's creeping up again. But, I think some people are kind of doing the networking. They're getting the education. They're finding opportunities. We probably just had a lot of money coming in of late, especially with the tax filing deadline and some promotions. So people have been bringing money over, but it seems like, sometimes they're just poised to strike. So, a lot of them are they've got the money there. They're just looking to pull the trigger on something. So it's a matter of just finding it.
And, I think it's good to be careful. I'm glad you mentioned the due diligence. It's really critical. David Phelps just put a post out this week about being careful with like syndications and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's so important to know who you're working with. I'll leave it at that. It's so incredibly important. Ken Rowley, 25 years. If I only knew. Sharita, I love that you're gonna try to free up time. Creating time is so important. It's one of my goals for this year as well. Is because you got to think like if you have the ability to spend time with the people that are the most important to you, whether it's being an amazing dad who's always there when your kids go to school or come home, or taking them to the movies, or taking your family on a vacation, or spending time with your aging parents. My dad's turning 90 in a few weeks, so I'm thinking of that. That's even more important. So understand your freedom number and how you're going to get there, and just get started at it. It's no get rich quick scheme. That doesn't exist.
Nope.
So I am anti get rich fast. It's get rich slow. But if you're intentional about it, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. And I think everyone who's on the call today can do it, I've seen people with an 8th grade education do it, and I've seen people with degrees more advanced than my master's degree do it as well. Both work.
Very true. Very true. Okay. Well, how about we call it a day? You can get on with your Easter weekend, and we all can as well. But Jim, this has been great. It's been nice seeing you again. Hope to get to Richmond again sometime soon. I love Richmond. It's actually not far from where I grew up. So always nice to be back east.
Where is that, Steve?
I grew up in Baltimore.
Wow.
So last time I was there, I got to go up with Quincy to the Think Realty thing that was up there too.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Steve. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.